Hi everybody, this is Gotham Arcade. My apologies. I was having some technical difficulties amongst this. I don't know what was going on. It seemed like my site wasn't going live, so I figured let me hop on and basically let me hop on. So I had to redo everything from scratch. My apologies. I thought I had everything set up, and apparently that wasn't the case. I want to give a shout out to Constorm and Bobby's Arcade for yesterday for coming on my podcast, spending some time with me, chatting it up, having a little bit of fun. My boy Manny, that's in the neighborhood, he know who he is. I'm saying what's up to him and all my new subscriber base. I want to thank someone for reminding me today. Today is my first year anniversary. I last year only had 3 subscribers. This year I have 116. So I think I have done an awesome job only doing this part time. Hopefully I in the later months, hopefully I can basically sit down and be doing this full time. So hopefully it will definitely go well as far as what I come up next. So let's get on with today's topic. I figured some of my people I reached out to would hopped on or send some love, but apparently they either run late or and there was some technical difficulty. So I when they hit the chat room, I will send them a link and hopefully we will go from there. So on with the show. So right now, this is my topic for today: 25 most wanted Arcade1up's, the countdown. I figured I was gonna have a few guests with me, but apparently our schedules got all conflicted, or I send them the wrong link. But when they hop in, I'll send them the right one, and we could go from there. So, uh, with everything that's going on in the world, I want everybody to say I thank everybody for coming out and watching my podcast today. So we're gonna move forward as far as that. So if you not noticed, these calves are most wanted. All right, some of these calves we already got, and some haven't even shown up. Hopefully, with this podcast, maybe Arcade One is probably watching, and hopefully they will take notice of this. I know that a lot of people think that Arcade One do not pay attention to the community. I'm one of them, but hopefully with this podcast, maybe it can reach the masses and maybe they could come up with a better game plan for 2024. Because right now, 2023 is almost over and we haven't seen anything as yet. But I don't want to throw negativity in the field. I want to show some positivity and hopefully and some hope that we will see these calves down the road. So I collected over 3,074 total votes was collected from all 5 fan groups throughout 4 countries, here in the U.S., Canada, New England, Australia. I went into groups about a couple months ago. I'll say about 4 or 5 months ago. I was thinking about this topic. How can I find out what the masses want? I know what I want, but maybe my what I want is kind of similar to what they want. So the only way I found out unless I went through the Facebook groups. So the Facebook groups, they came out and supported, and I want to thank everybody that voted for their particular cabinet in this most wanted concept. But hopefully, we will see what happens afterwards in the later days, in the later weeks and months. So with an honorable mention, with 40 votes apiece, Road Blaster and Silent Scope were the 2 cabinets that were on the cuff. So I will say this: Silent Scope. When I did my background, and I did check to see what games can go with this cab. I didn't find a lot of games that had the same makeup as Silent Scope. Silent Scope is a cabinet by itself, and with Terminator 2, based on what we have seen and how the community reacted to it, I don't think this will be a good cab to actually have in the masses. And even though people voted for it and had some, I would say, positive, negative commentary towards it. I feel that this cab will never see the light of day in the arcade one up or in the whole community. I think it would be great on the at games. Personally, honest, you could get you one of them sending light guns to go with it, but I don't think it will be the makeup of the actual gun, the actual assault rifle that's actually being used. When it comes to Road Blaster is a fan favorite. Everybody loves Road Blaster. But out of 3,000 votes, that wasn't even a percentage where I could see people actually, we can get that in the masses. To have Walmart pick up this cabinet, I don't feel this cabinet would really do well. I think this cabinet will basically flock because it's not a lot of games that can go with it. And I mean, Road Blaster is a unique game in itself. So to actually have one game cab, and most of the cabs are now starting at $600. I don't see a lot of people buying this cab until it goes on clearance. And this cab would actually have to get down to like $299, $199 before this cab would even make it in people's houses. I don't think a lot of people will pay $600 for this cab when they could go and buy the real cab for maybe $500. So I think it'll be a good add-on. Maybe if it had Spider Hunter, but Spider Hunter has more a mass appeal. And when you do both games, I think Spider Hunter will do much better as the marquee game than a secondary game. I think Road Blaster will be a great secondary game to add to complement that cap. I think it will be really worth, at that point it will be worth $600 or $599 or $550 if they, whatever their price is. So being that said, I would basically I wouldn't hold your breath on these two. I don't feel that these cabs will ever be lighter day, even though Road Blaster is a beautiful cab. But I don't see it ever translating to the masses or an exclusive or in a Walmart or Best Buy or Sam's Club or anywhere you want to call it. So that is where I stand with that. So we're going to move on. Next slide. So when we go to Gorf is a 1980 game. It has a lot of appeal with 44 votes coming in at number 25. I think a lot of people want this game. It has a beautiful marquee. If you notice on the bottom of the page, Gorf. I love the marquee. I love that purple yellow with the red burst in it. I think it looks beautiful, and especially the way the cab is made up. If you look on your right side of the page, you see that blue skin with that white trim and with the marquee. I think it would be a beautiful cab. However, what games would you add with it? What games would you put with it to basically say this cab could be marketable? However, I don't think a Walmart would pick this up. I think Arcade1up would have to promote this cab first. Put it out there, like put 4, 5, or 1,000 cabs out there and push this cab out. I think once this cab sell, I think this cab will sell out because I think, honestly, I would buy this cab just for the nostalgia aspect. It does have the Space Invaders kind of feel, but it actually has like a Galaxian feel as well. Because if you notice that it's all shifting back and forth like Space Invaders, but then the aliens are dropping down like Galaxian. So it has both of them. So I think this game could actually have a lot of promise and a lot of feel, but I think we would have to get behind it to make this cab a most wanted to come out. So these are the games I would add with it. I was the person that was adding games to it. So I would add Bozeman, Pac-Man Plus, Extra Bases, Space Encounter, Kickman, and regular Kick. These are a lot of 80s variants that I think this cab could have a lot of diversity in it, a lot of categories, a lot of subgenres that will actually make this cab a most wanted out there. I think a lot of people's like, well, some of these games I don't recognize, some of these games I do. because all these games has been in an arcade, all of them, every one of them. I looked, I checked, everything has been in the arcade. I feel that at the end of the day, I think this would be a great lineup with 6 games. You put it as you could do you could do a legacy off this if you want to. I don't think you can. I mean, it is kind of like a kind of got a midway feel to it, but I think this would be a great dwarf cab going forward. Plus, the control schemes is not hard. I think it's easy adaptable. I think a lot of people will like it, especially the the old timers, the OGs. They will love this cab because it has a lot of nostalgia to it. And I think the games list I picked will do very well amongst the masses. So if you like 80s games, I think this cab will be a winner. The next cab at number 24 with 45 votes, Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur is a most wanted cab because a lot of people want to see us move past Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. We got KI, but with the debacle with KI, I think we need to get some other games that's pushing the envelope into the new millennium. And this is the cab that should be on Arcade's 1UP table as of right now. I know a lot of people say, like, well, the chipset is not going to be handled, but that's what a lot of people said about KI. And we get Code Mystics to hop in this and make this game happen. I think this game can happen on that chipset. I think, maybe a couple extra dollars might have to be invested in the chipset, but I think this game definitely could do damage. I mean, Soul Calibur is a really interesting game. I think I'm going to play it so you can see how the makeup is. Give it a couple seconds. There we go. The game's moving up. Manco, I actually played Soul Calibur a couple times. I could never really get into it because I suck. It was past my time. And I think at that point, I was kind of like chasing after women at that point. I was working, and I wasn't really deep in the arcades. And when this came out on console, I think it came out on Dreamcast. I didn't really buy Dreamcast at that point. I was still not really focused on video games. I had a lot of other things on my plate at that time. But I think Soul Calibur would be a great game for a console, especially the cabinet being that black. And I think the makeup could be awesome if Arcade bring in a good carpenter or a good designer to make the cab come to fruition. I think this will be an awesome cab. The game that I would add with it will be Soul Edge. I think Soul Edge is a really good complement game. It has the same graphic specs. It actually will do a lot of awesome. It will add some extra depth to it. They're kind of two similar games, but I think you cannot add a lot to Napcom because Napcom has a very small library when it comes to these 3D fighter games at this point. So I figure, with Soul Calibur and Soul Edge, I think it'll be a great cab. I think for 600, I think for 550, 600, I think this cab will do really well. I think a lot of people will buy it. I think a lot of people will start getting rid of cabs. A cab to make this one fit in. But at the same time, can I see myself buying it? Yes, I would buy it. I would definitely buy it because really, honestly, I definitely want to catch up to the people that bust my ass a couple years back. So we're going to move on. I think this is going to be a great cab if it ever comes out, but it is number 24, and we're going to move on to the next cab. The next cab at number 23 is Virtual Cop. Virtual Cop is the first shooter. No, let me take that back. It's not the first shooter. It's not the first shooter. I think it's a really good shooting cab. I think most wanted. It's still pop up in a lot of barcades. I do see this cabinet from time to time. I have seen one in Dallas. This cab is awesome. We don't want to offend the police, but you are the police in this game, and you are busting bad guys, and to see this cab come to the home aspect would be phenomenal. I would love to see this cab definitely come. Now, what would I add to it if I had the opportunity? If I had the opportunity, there's nothing to add to it unless you put House of Dead or Time Crisis with. And Time Crisis has already been leaked as a new cab coming. I don't think that Virtual Cop will be a standalone cab. I think it might have to be an add-on to something else, because being that Virtual Cop it's not really high on the polls, and a lot of people didn't feel that this was a great game. But I think it'd be a great add-on to like the House of the Dead, and like to actually make the cab worth the bang for the buck. So hopefully, if they bring House of the Dead out, hopefully we'll see they will attach Virtual Cop to it, because I think that'll be a great game, because they do have the same kind of pistols, Cinder pistols they have. So I think it'll be a great game. All right, next cab at number 20, at number 21. Oh, this is tied. It was tied. There's two cabs tied with 50 votes. It's Open Ice. Open Ice is the next. It should be the next sports game. If you have NBA Jam, NFL Blitz, Golden Tee, we're really getting into like, okay, we haven't seen any like really action-packed games at all when it comes to sports. And then the debacle they did by changing the ROM out and getting rid of the late hits, hockey, you can't do that. I think this game will be a sellout amongst the masses. We need to get this game out there. I think that Open Ice will be a great cab. Now, it does come in two variants. We can get the 4-player one, and we can get the 2-player one. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want that 4-player cab. I want the 2-player. I think they should do both, do half and half, and let the community figure it out. I think this cab will be phenomenal. I think, like for me, I played on my act games. If you notice this behind me, I played on my act games, and I do enjoy it. It has that NBA feel, but it has that NFL blitz kind of flow. And I think this is where we need to get some action-packed sports games in it, because we're not going to get arch rivals and things like that. We're not going to get games like this, but I think this will do really well amongst the masses. What would I add with this? There's not really a lot of games you can add with it. I think they would have to do a co-op with this. They would have to at least do NBA Showdown, NBA Showtime, or NBA Maximum Hang Time. I think this will be a phenomenal cab coming out the gate. It will sell like hotcakes, because with these two being in the same market, I think this will be a great cab. I think it just with the NHL and the NBA would have to split the profits down in the middle. I think everybody has to understand that this is not going to be a cheap cab. If you're going to, I think when it comes out of the gate, really honestly, you're going to pay at least $700 for this cab. Because you got to understand, there's two major factors: the games and the name branding. This is not going to be a cheap cab. Now, they might do a discount like months down the road, like going towards the summer, and they might do it once or twice to try to clear out inventory. But as far as anything beyond that, I don't see this cab being like NBA Jams or NFL Blitz. I don't, or NBA NFL Blitz Legends. My fault. It will not be like that. I feel this game is going to have a lot of promise. I believe that Arcade1up is definitely heard the fan feedback when NBA Jams came out. Their online wasn't great, and with NFL Blitz Legend, with their online not going to be online, I think this cab needs to be ready to go from the get. It needs to be ready to go. As soon as you open it, put it together, it needs to be ready to go with no problems. So those are the games I would add. Either add them both or just pick one. I think NBA Maximum Hang Time would be a great game to go with it. All right, next slide. Gyres. I don't really know this game too well, but it is number 21 with 50 votes. So this does have an 80s nostalgia to it. This game, what I noticed is it kind of had a Gradius kind of feel. I think before Gradius, Gyres was the game. You know, when I looked online, it's a great shooter game, and I think we need games. We need more of these games in our home arcade because I don't have a lot of these shooter games like this. The only one I got was like Galaxy. That's it, or like whatever's on Atari Legacy, or that's it. But I think a good shoot 'em up cab. I think it will do really really well. I think it will be great for the masses. I think, because I do like these shoot 'em up games. Like a lot of people want 1942, 1943, 1944. I think this will be a good way to kind of test the market if that game will do really well. Because I think this cab will be phenomenal coming out the game. And what would I add with this? I would add Gradius, Salamander, and what was the other one? Asteroid Invasion, and Jackal. Now, why I picked Jackal in this? I think this to kind of give a little different flavor to it. You can kind of take it out and make it a 4-game cab, but I think because what we saw with the Sega cab, where they added like different control schemes to like different games, you had Shinobi, Archer Peace, you had Golden Axe 1, you had the Death Adder in it, and then you had Wrestle Wars. They had different selection. This cabinet only has one different game. Jackal is an awesome game. I used to play this on Nintendo when I used to get my Nintendo to work, and I remember playing this. This game was phenomenal, and I would think it would be a great complement to all these space shooters that have a military type game that have a lot of feel to it. I think this cab will have a lot of constant feedback. I think this cab will be like a legend in the home arcade space. If you don't agree, please put it in the chat if you don't think this cab will do really well. Because with this lineup, I think this lineup will be phenomenal. I think it'll be awesome to add to the Gradius cabinet. That's just me personally. But I would love to see this cab come out with this game list. Oh yeah, and make it like a $500 cab. I think this cab will do really well coming out the game constantly. So on to the next slide. At number 20, we got Tekken. I think Tekken is what everybody wants. Everybody's been beefing about it. We definitely need to get Tekken in here. I would love to see a Tekken cab. I think we're due. I mean, everybody's kind of got Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat fatigue right now. We need some new ones. With Soul Calibur and Tekken being on the horizon, I think this will be great. I know everybody's the chipset. Arcade want to know what they're doing. I think it would be great if it came out in a candy cab. Now that would be interesting because it's all about the nostalgia of everything. Why not have a candy cab? I think that'll be a great difference. It'll take away from all the other, like a different type of form factor. Yeah, absolutely. Yo, Bobby, hop on, man. I got a link for you. Here you go. So I feel like a Tekken cab would be phenomenal. Like if we could get a Tekken cab in a candy cab format, well, yes. Even if it's that white one, I wouldn't care. I think it would be interesting how they would pull this off. And I think it will show that arcade is all about the quality at this point. So if we could get a quality candy cab, I think the candy cab is made out of plastic, if I'm not mistaken. If they could get a molding of it and put a nice little 17-inch in it. Okay, Bobby, we'll take your time. I'll probably be on for a little bit. I think if they do it right, I think it will be a great cabinet. So what I would add with this cab, I would add these titles to it. Now, hear me out. You have these games that I would add with Cyber Commander. If you have not seen this game, you need to go on YouTube and watch it. Let me put it on. I think this game is real different. I took some time to really pay attention to these games. I'm gonna blow it up for you so everybody can see it. Oh, I can't blow it up, unfortunately. So it's not allowing me unless I spend the page. So I think Cyber Command would be that 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 cut game that everybody is going to sleep on. I think this game will have a lot of depth to it, and with this game being a shooter Starfire kind of game, and then it has like if you could do the online play with it, I think you can add like multiple shifts into the playfield. Oh, this game will be phenomenal. It'll be so hard. I think it'll be awesome. Like, look at the video right now as it's playing right now. I mean, the graphics is phenomenal. I think this will play. I kid you not. A $700 cap with these 5 games in it, I kid you not. These games will go hard in the paint. I'm not going to lie to you. You got to go and check these games out on YouTube. Take a pen, write it down, go and look at these games. I kid you not. These games are great. What I picked, and I feel like what could come from this, you talk about hours and hours of playtime. If they made a cockpit for it, I think it would be great if they could make a cockpit format, or they could make a kitty cat, because kitty cat actually sits down low, so you would actually have to sit at it and just get a nice little stool to go with it, something comfortable. I believe you could get hours of fun time out of this cat. I kid you not. The Attack of Zolgear, another classic game. Like, I was watching this one today, and it had this like it looks like it looked like you would need multiple screens, but I think that being that Arcade1up is real cheap or about how they put these screens, like they will not put multiple screens. I believe if you could make this an XL cab, I think you can get a lot of love out of this. And why I say that is that this game is like you're like in the cockpit and you're really like just navigating your shots. You're not flying, you're just kind of navigating. Everything is happening around you like Star Wars. I think this game will be great. I think it will be great. So the Nebula, this Nebula game right here, I basically was watching it today. I actually had to go back and watch this game. It has kind of like it's like a shooter, but it's more upgraded. It's like Galaxian on steroids. Like, the graphics is phenomenal. Like, if you notice, like every game that I added on, the graphics is pushing the chipset further. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Arcade1 is being cheap about the chipset. I feel like this, if Arcades could pull it off, they need to figure how to make this happen. These games will be phenomenal. And my last game, I feel like we can get a lot of great games out of this cabinet. This is a kind of a fighter game, it's kind of a fighter game, but I think with those four games attached to grades, I think that'll be a phenomenal cab. So hopefully we'll see that cab down the road. The next cab is Zaxxon. I think this cab has always been requested. It has the Tempest body look. It actually has, with the Tempest, you can use a joystick. But if you get a regular cab, you would need that Tron stick to give it a better feel. So I think this cab would do really well amongst the masses. I think that when you talk about price, do you feel that this cab could do a lot in the masses? Could it be like a Walmart exclusive? I don't think so. I think that I think personally this needs to be exclusive from Arcade1. I think Arcade1 needs to just put 500 cabs, make it a limited edition, and move on. Like they did Golden Axe and have the community feed for these cabinets going forward. So that is how I would play with Zaxxon. And what games I would add on to it, the only game I saw with the same dimensions was Super Zaxxon. And that was it. It was the only game that I felt that could be added on to this cabinet. Unfortunately, they don't like with this game selection. and with the trigger, it would have been great to have been add-on with Tron, but Disney controls Tron. So I feel like Zaxxon would have been a great add-on to the Tron cabinet and gave it some extra depth to it. But unfortunately, to get a Zaxxon cabinet, I don't think that's going to ever happen. I think it has to be part of a compilation or a legacy cabinet. But you're talking about but if you really want that GRS flight stick to go with it, I think that you're asking for a lot from Arcade1up at that point. And then especially if you're going to expect them to basically have this at a cheap price, I just don't see it. I just don't see this cabinet ever happening. Oh, what's going on, Constorm?
Oh, I was beginning to wonder if you were going to pull me up. Sorry I'm late. I took a nap, and I thought I was going to make it to the alarm, but I overslept.
No problem, man. Welcome.
Thank you. As far as the Zaxxon cabinet is concerned, there's really no way for them to do a 2-in-1 at this point without it being a direct consumer. If they want to push this at retail, they'll have to have some form of orientation mixing, unfortunately. It's the way of the world at this point. I mean, I don't think we've had an accurate Atari since 2018. Okay, well, that's not entirely true. I guess 2019?
2019.
Oh, the Pong table. Yeah, yes. That was the last accurate vertical release, because Tempest was horizontal and so was Centipede.
But I just don't feel that Arcade1up will put a 2-game Zaxxon cab out there. I just don't see it.
I don't know. They pushed a 1-game T2.
Yeah, but that had mass appeal on multiple audience. You're talking about Zaxxon, a 1980s title that really only appeals to the diehards. That's it.
Well, they could always just throw it in with like Afterburner or something.
Well, Zaxxon is actually. Let's see. Zaxxon is a Sega title. Yeah, it could actually happen. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it could actually happen. I can see that playing out.
Well, it's just a theoretical. I mean, when it comes to Sega, you only have a few acceptable marquee games that they could realistically do, and Afterburner is the first one that comes to mind, and I've already gone over that game list over on my channel some time ago.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just looking at the amount of votes that came in for it. It was like 52 votes of the cab, but I just don't see Arcade1up putting their back in behind this cabinet. So we'll move on. So the next one with 56 votes at number 18 was Pole Position. At Pole Position, I can see this happening. Everybody wants this cab. I think this cab will do really well out there. I played this as a kid. I played this on the Atari. This game has appeal. It was in the movie Daryl. If you don't know this game, but I think this cab will do really well amongst the masses. What you think?
It's certainly a very real possibility. Pole Position is considered a classic, and it's pretty much known the world over in some respects. Although I do remember my first time seeing this game being on a Miss Pac-Man plug-and-play at my neighbor's house. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely gotten around. Though if Arcade1up were to pick this game up, it's really hard to tell, again, what could actually be included. I mean, I believe there was a Pole Position 2, but after that, it gets kind of fuzzy.
Yep, that's it. Pole Position 2. That's the only game that could go with it. I think it'd do fine. I think, it has a lot of appeal. I think the retailers will pick it up. I believe a lot of them will pick it up because it has a big name to it. I mean, who hasn't played Pole Position as a kid or as an adult? It was one of the very first driver cabs out there. It has a couple tracks. I think it do fine. You don't have to change up anything other than the the logos in the game, you would have to go in there and probably just get a coder just to recode those. But other than that, I think the game would be fine by itself. But I think you would have to have a 360 steering wheel to go with it.
Yeah.
That
That's pretty much the whole draw of all the racing cabinets is a steering wheel. There's really no excuse why they wouldn't. But again, this is a case of there's no way a retailer would pick this up. This would have to be direct to consumer as well.
What do you think, Bobby? Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What do you think about pole position being an addition, being put out in the masses or being sold at this point?
I think so. I mean, they thought about what was it, track and field, I guess, possibly. But yeah, I think pole position would be another. I mean, they did outrun. I think it's possible for sure.
I mean, do you think that Arcade1 will put resources in making a 360 steering wheel to go with it? Maybe a little, because remember, when you play pole position, you're slamming on the gas pedal at times. Those cheap plastic pedals ain't gonna last very long with this.
Well, with their past track record, I don't think they really care too much about the pedal braking. So, I mean, they just want to sell it, and you'll just buy aftermarket pedal covers and things like that. Like I put on all mine.
Does the pedal covers actually help? They actually are much better.
Yeah, it definitely helps. It's not the best. I think the best would be to actually replace the pedals with the. I forgot. Somebody's selling pedals out there that you can.
The buy stuff.
The buy stuff, yeah. If you get those, I mean, those would probably be the best. But for cost saving, I mean, yeah, the pedals covers definitely help. But I feel like the ones that I got, they just they don't feel like they fit it perfectly. So they kind of, they fit it on one side pretty well, but the other side it's not as much. But they haven't come off really. So when I had family and friends come over, they were slamming on it, and it definitely helped it a lot better, I think, in my opinion.
All right.
But
well, I think this will do. Me personally, I think if I was in that room, I think I would push this out. I do believe I do agree with Constorm as far as it would have to be a direct to consumer. I don't think I would sell at least 500, and then hopefully Walmart or Best Buy or GameStop come a calling, and then make a bunch more. I think they want to eventually get stuck with most of these because depending on what the price point is, if they charge like $600 or $700 for this cab will be sitting in warehouses until the price meet like at least $399 or $299, where the sale would actually have to happen for these cabs to clear out.
And what did you say the steering wheel was again?
360. It has to be a 360 steering wheel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like they're putting pedals and instead of buttons instead of pedals, and trying to cut corners as much as they can. The cheap Tron sticks. So I wouldn't hold my breath on that, but they put something in there. And it also depends on ultimately all depends on what other games they can really put on there. I know.
Well, only pole position 1 and 2 would be the only 2 games that be added, because remember this is still an arcade. This is an Atari game, and remember Atari, like at this point this was one of the very first driving cabs, so it only had to shift it to go on high and low. It had metal brakes and metal brakes and gas pedals. And that was it. Those are the 2 games and the same makeup. So and then really you don't have to do much with the chipset other than just making sure that you could go in and code the signs inside the games, like maybe Arcade1up or like Walmart or Best Buy, whoever is the one that's pushing the cab out there. That's it. You just have to get rid of the signs in there, like the old shell signs, the old gas signs, the cigarette, Marlboro, all those. You have to get rid of all those signs. That's it. Pepsi, you have to get rid of that as well, because they're gonna hit them with a trademark claim that they're promoting their brand inside of a game they're not getting paid for.
Yeah, I mean, it with the more work they have to do, the less likely I think it'll ever come see the light of day. But you never know.
Well, and we true that. So, well, let's move on to the next game. The next game is Lethal Enforcers with 57 votes, and it was at number 17. What you think about this console coming to lighter day?
I think I played that one on my shooter setup on the ALP. Trying to remember. This is I don't know if you is that the video of it right there.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
You know,
That's a pretty realistic looking gun that might scare some people nowadays.
well, remember the guns were blue and red. They were blue and red. So, as I remember this game being at the arcade, they were blue and red. Unless you spray paint them like the T2 to make them black, they will stay blue and red.
Yeah.
It's actually a great game. I actually played it. Konami's all about that. They always been good about their shooting games. I actually enjoyed this game. Console, what about you, man?
I could see this one happening. There is certainly an audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is yet another direct-to-consumer because, well, besides the ESRB hearings, I really rarely hear much about this title. I think that's the last time I even recall seeing anything about it. Well, at least in terms of context of arcade games. Like, this is the last thing I think of when I think of Light Gun, unfortunately.
What about you, Bobby? What about you? You think about you would buy this?
Yeah, I think I definitely would.
I mean, the guns they wouldn't feel like the T2 guns. They would have to be a little bit heavier.
Yeah, definitely.
More solid.
I mean, do you think, I don't know, well, I mean, they have possibly Time Crisis, right? I was just thinking, right now we have Buck Hunter, right? Shooting deer. We have Terminator shooting robots. Do you think they'll be comfortable with people like shooting people, nowadays? I mean,
well, that would be it. But you got to think about it. This cabinet came out in the early '90s during the drug war.
Yeah.
So my thing is for a parents group or a parents group or women to get uproar like this is part of history. The terrorism, 9/11, the war in Iraq, things like that. I can understand why people would be kind of like disturbed, or they probably lost family members by this. But being the way the security is these days at the airport, I don't think people should get too conscious about this. I mean, does it help? Does it help or hurt the kids that are playing it to feel that they're attacking people like this? That'll be a conversation in itself.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to say video games have been, getting kids to kill people since Mortal Kombat or. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I definitely would buy it if they ever did. It really just ultimately comes down to the thoughts and ideals of Arcade1up. If John D's like, no, I don't want to release that, then they ain't gonna release it. So.
Well, the only game that I found to attach to it was Lethal Enforcers 2 Gunfighter, and this is like the old West to be attached to as a secondary game.
Yeah, I can see them doing like something like that police shooter or a trainer. I think it was a police trainer one.
I mean, Console, would you like this as a complimentary game?
It would be neat to see it for the nostalgia factor to some people, or potentially to the uniqueness factor as well. This one really doesn't get talked about that much, at least these days. Time Crisis kind of took up the gun debate for Arcade1up for a while now, in addition to the other bigger names like House of the Dead. But I can see that there is probably still an audience for this title out there somewhere, so I'm sure, this could potentially sell, though I suspect they'd probably have to include some other shooters, some other Konami shooters like Mad Dog McGee or something to complement this rather different setup.
You know what? I didn't even think about that game, to be honest. You know,
I don't blame
that would be a great add-on, though. That would be. Well, I mean, honestly, I would love to see this game because we do need better shooters. I mean, I do have both Big Buck Hunter and T2, and after a while, they do kind of phase out. After a while, I do have people come over from time to time, and they do play. They seem to be more drawn to Big Buck Hunter than T2. But I think this will be definitely a different.
Buck Hunter is more has a bigger universal appeal due to its bar presence.
That's true, but I honestly I had never played Big Buck Hunter until I got it. I never was in bars, and I remember a lot of college kids, even like being that I'm right across from a military installation. A lot of kids, a lot of adults play Big Buck Hunter. That they seem to be more fascinated with that.
Yeah, I agree.
For me personally, I grew up with T2 in the arcade because where I lived at in my neighborhood, I lived in Queens, New York. There was no bars; it was arcades. So Terminator 2 was an arcade. So I think it's all important about what market are you trying to attract.
Right. There's some possibilities. There is that much.
I mean, would you pay $6.99 for this? For
Not
those
really.
games?
Not really. No. Just then again, this really isn't my thing. So.
What about you, Bobby?
It really depends on how many games it comes with.
3.
3 games.
700.
I'd probably be like $500, I think.
Oh, so you'll wait for that first sale?
Yeah,
like
I think I would.
Okay.
It's just, I mean, if they had like Luigi's Mansion, I'd be all over it, or Jurassic Park or something.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next slide. All right. So this is a slide in itself. So they got 63 votes. It came at number 16. Everybody knows Super Sprint, Super Off-Road. These are the only 2 games that could go together. There's nothing else.
Yeah, there is. Super Off-Road
would be the main marquee.
Well, considering that Super is basically a continuation of Off-Road in a sense, all you'd really get is some more tracks as well. So that is another option. I just remembered it because it is present on the Midway Arcade Treasures 3 for Nintendo GameCube.
Okay.
And I'm holding it right here. So seriously, if I had my camera plugged in, I could show you.
I think this would be good as an XL. It couldn't be a deluxe. It has to be an XL cabinet for this.
Oh, absolutely. You're asking to put 3 steering wheels on this thing. There's no way around this.
Because I think the weight alone, it has to be sturdy. A deluxe would be offset. I think it will break. You got to think about the amount of trauma of that steering wheel going around. And remember, these steering wheels are 360, so you have to have great steering wheels and a great stance for this cabinet to sit still. So it have to have some weight to it. What about you, Bobby? You think you will put this in your room?
You got super off-road gameplay right there, dude.
Yeah, I got off-road 4x4, the real one.
Okay.
But I mean, I know it's a totally different game, but yeah, I wouldn't mind. I think it'd be cool if they could somehow get the multi-steering wheel setup somehow.
Well,
but like,
I think someone had actually did this mod, and it actually turned out pretty cool though the way they did it. So I mean, if a regular person could pull this off, I think Arcade1up could do it. But it goes back to quality control as far as what kind of cheap shit they're gonna put on it to get this cabinet out of the room. They're not gonna really invest no money into it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want, people coming back and saying this cat broke it within 60 days because of the traumas, the amount of pressure they put on this cabinet. And
if they wanted to, they could include something like Badlands or Stun Runner on here too, but those are a little different. But
would it work with this steering wheel, this steering wheel option, the way the game is set up.
Let's see here.
Because that's the whole point. It has to be somewhat compatible to this.
Badlands is a 2 steering wheel game, but it could technically work with the 1 and 3 players, 1 and 3 player wheels.
Mm-hmm.
At least, yeah, in the case of Badlands, and let's see, STUNRUNR. And in the case of Stun Runner, that is a 1-player game, but well, it could also work on here mostly. It's actually runs off an Atari Flight Yoke, so yeah, it'd be a little different.
Yes, so I would
be a little more unorthodox if they did take that path. Still looks pretty cool though.
I think that the first game that you mentioned, I think that'll probably work well because
Badlands.
You only have one steering wheel that's off, and that's the one in the center. So you can have two on the angles, and that probably would work. But just to have a one driver game for one person as a fourth option, I mean, if you want to add that as like a secret ROM like they did with the Outrun cab, and throw that as an extra game later on, I mean that could probably work.
Yeah,
that could probably work.
Yeah, that would certainly make more sense. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring those up since I had the game list right there.
Yeah, sorry I misspoke. It was Road Riot 4-wheel drive is what I have, not off-road. But it's the Atari 1991 game. I think that would be cool to have, like, but it's got the yoke of Star Wars, so I don't know.
Yeah, but then that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. So basically, you're taking the game that Constorm was talking about, that last game, and you would add it with yours. That would probably make a cabin itself. That probably would probably be on the old. That probably would have to add on if Star Wars ever came back out again, and Disney would be friendly to allow those two to hop on. Then that would make a lot of sense. But
yeah, how many games have this yoke style steering wheel? Do you know?
Probably at least 50, maybe 100 games.
Yeah.
That's a rough guess. I'm not 100% on that. I'm not really gonna look it up right now. I'm barely staying awake.
So we're gonna move on to the next slide. Number 15 is Crazy Taxi.
Yes.
Crazy
Really
Taxi.
cool game, but the immediate problem, soundtrack.
It's the music.
Oh, yeah, it's that damn soundtrack. It's a good soundtrack, don't get me wrong, but there's just no way that you're getting this game with its soundtrack intact. Something's gonna get removed.
I agree.
Sure, if they went out of their way to make this happen, more than likely Crazy Taxi 2 would definitely be with it. And other than that, it's kind of hard to say for sure. I actually remember my local Walmart having Crazy Taxi in its weird gameplay section way back when the section was actually kept up really good. These days it's just a bunch of freaking claw machines. I don't even know why they bother. But they still have their fast drift cabinet. That's the only arcade game they still have.
Well, when I looked up Crazy Taxi, they had a lot of console games, and
I think that's what Arcade1up would have to do.
Well,
I know people don't really care much for console, but the weird crux of the 2000s and the mid 2000s arcade titles is that a lot of their console continuations honestly did actually provide more. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, they're usually the better value in the long term.
And then a lot of us was already out at the arcade by then, so I don't think everybody should be really complaining. And it does add some depth to the price point because this cab is going to be expensive coming out the gate. The question is, are they going to mimic that cab the way it looked? I mean, Arcade1up is not great about that. That's the problem. Because Crazy Taxi has a unique body. It's just unique in itself.
It's a flat body arcade cabinet. Very different than a lot of things that we've seen. And in the Naomi space, while this was common for them, for Arcade1up, the only way they're going to be able to emulate that is if they make major adjustments to their production systems to account for this more unruly type of layout. It's not to say that it can't be done. I think they'd have an easier time of it since they're using a flat panel BOE. But if they're going to make this an XL, they're just going to have to be careful. They're just going to have to roll with it with the 2 games that they're going to have for this thing. And yeah, I don't know what else they could realistically include with Crazy Taxi off the top of my head.
Well, it would have to be the trilogy. I think that you would have to go to the consoles to add on to it. I mean, there's nothing else you can add with this, because when I looked through it for the last couple of days, all I saw was a bunch of Crazy Taxis going with it. So unless you add the next 2 Crazy Taxis to it, right before you get to like PS3, I would basically, that as far as I would want to go, because then you would have to change out the graphics card. And being that the chipsets are very cheap, they burn out too quick when they're overheating. There's no the fans they actually added with like 2 or 3 cabs. That is not going to help it. These cabs, you more likely won't have this cab very long in your household. It'll just be a piece of garbage after a while. So I would just go with the first 2 and add 2 and maybe add a console game to it and call it a day. I think at an XL price point of $750, I think you get a lot of people buying it. A lot of people will definitely buy this, and especially if they do not mod that soundtrack. And the soundtrack is the original. Yes, I think this cab will do. I think this cab will sell out on day 1 because everybody remembers the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, though I can see why people do want to see this type of game. It's very chaotic, but it's very unique in the way it's chaotic, messy gameplay works out, and I guess that's the appeal for it.
It's like Uber on steroids.
Yeah, and then the funny thing is, I have seen this game in person. There was a place near me that actually does have this game. I don't know if they still have it, but I think there was a local Bulladrome in the next town over that had this, Hydro Thunder. They also had Big Buck Hunter, which allowed me to play that for the first time. And they also had House of the Dead, but it wasn't working. If it was on the attract mode, but it couldn't, but the light guns wouldn't shoot. I don't know if they fixed it since then, though, because that was a couple of years ago.
Well, I mean, it's all about. I think it's all about the chipset.
Yeah,
it's all about the chipset for this. Chipset, music, and can you get the body to mimic what you saw? I think if they could pull those 3 things off, I think Arcade1up got a winner especially if it's for the winter rush.
Yeah.
I think everybody will empty their pockets to get this.
There is another game that comes to mind when I think about Crazy Taxi, and that's the arcade period Need for Speed titles, if you remember those.
I do, but those are like more. I remember those being on a console though. I don't remember them being in the arcade.
Hang on, let me look for it.
So I think for Arcade1up, like you said, to pull it off would have to be, the music and the graphics and all that stuff. Unfortunately, my expectation would be more of a Fast and the Furious kind of expectation where
if they do that, that'll be the end of them.
Hey, it would not surprise me. They'll dumb down the graphics so it'll work smoother.
Yeah, but to me, then you're ruining the game then, because that's what like a lot of us has never played Fast and Furious. But my thing is for you to chop the game and make it 2 games, and it is nothing like the game itself, then that'll make no sense. I haven't even bought Fast and Furious. I want to buy them, but I hear it's fun. Everybody said they enjoy it, but I just feel like for people that actually play Crazy Taxi, their expectations are going to be extremely high. I think Arcade1up has to be transparent. If they did any concessions, they would have to be upfront about it because people will be pissed. They're going to take this shit right back. I don't think nobody will buy it then. I think Arcade1up will dig their own graves if they fuck this game up.
Yeah, probably. I found it, by the way. Need for Speed Underground and Need for Speed 1 have both received arcade releases.
Are you serious?
Yes, check the private chat. I just sent you the link to Need for Speed Underground, I believe. That is the Primetime Amusements
Oh.
link.
I think I remember seeing those also.
You guys can see this? Oh wow. I've never seen this.
I don't blame you. They're not that well known. They are not that well known at all. But I can definitely see the appeal for them. I mean, with the Need for Speed Most Wanted, apparently the 2005 version is supposed to be getting a remake. So if Arcade1up could work with EA to get these arcade versions released, or at least re-released, it would be great to expose more people to them.
That's true, because I have the carbon black. I still have it on my Xbox. I have the carbon black one.
Yeah,
so,
that Need for Speed holds a special place in my family's heart. We used to play the original Hot Pursuit back in the day with the that came out on the not early. They came out for Windows XP and Windows before all that, and we would always mod in this tank and just decimate everything, everything. We'd always just joke around going, "Daddy, stop killing the children," as these cop cars would be spinning on the tips of their license plates all the way down the road. It was the best kind of chaos. I loved it.
Well, I think that as long as they don't make no concessions to mess with the ROM and leave it as the arcade ROM, I think the game will be fine. But the question is, with whoever owns a Crazy Taxi, would they allow that to be an add-on?
Honestly, I think they might be able to get away with it, but it would really come down to who actually owns the license of Crazy Taxi right now.
Crazy Taxi, still Sega. Sega still owns it. Yep, Sega still owns it.
Well, I think that them and EA could probably work together if they were so inclined. But frankly, I think Need for Speed could stand on its own. It's very well known. Make no mistake. It is very, very well known.
That's true, but in a console, in the home console space, yes. Not in the arcade format, no.
But I mean that didn't stop Arcade1up from doing Fast and Furious. Now did it? And that's frankly, true. I was only aware of Drift. I did not know about the one before that.
That's true.
Or Cruising, for that matter, until I started researching the topic in detail.
And talking about Sega, it reminds me of that Road Rash game. Remember?
Oh yes.
I used to love that.
Yes, that was at its best on. That one was on its best on Genesis, without a doubt.
Yep.
Well, we can only hope, but hopefully they're watching when I put all the hashtags in there. Hopefully they'll pick up and watch this. So the next one with 74 votes at number 14 is Super Mario Bros. This is the 1984 version.
Yeah, I can understand why people want Nintendo, but guys, be realistic. I'm sorry, this just can't happen. Nintendo,'s a bunch of pricks when it comes to this kind of thing. Yes, they do not work with anybody. They flat out get after people for fan projects. It's pretty sad, actually. This is what happens when you're over 100 years old. You get bitter, and it gets really freaking hard to work with you.
But the thing is, if they ever did this, I could see this in a player's choice, a mini player's choice.
Play Choice 10.
Yeah, Play Choice 10. I think that'll be great. That'll be an interesting concept.
It would be very interesting, yes. But as far as if we did a true blue Play Choice 10, there would be so many publishers on that, like Konami, and there are others. Yeah, I can't remember all the games off the top of my head, but there were quite a few. I mean, the only one they might be able to get away with would be Versus Excite Bike. I think.
What about you, Bobby? What you feel about how they ever got their hands on the Nintendo license? You think these cats will sell out like hotcakes? How many do you think Arcade1up will produce of these? If they
I
ever
mean, if they had any kind of Nintendo license, I mean, I'm pretty sure it would sell for sure. I mean, but like you said, it's chances are slim to none. I think with them even sharing that out to anybody, most likely they would just produce their own, and they're not
Right.
interested in home
Or they
arcade.
would just drop the arcade games onto NSO in some capacity.
But yeah, I
I
definitely would like it. Yeah.
honestly, when I was thinking about additional games, I was like, if Nintendo actually released one and gave them a bone, I figured Popeye would be the additional game. It's like saying, well,
Good luck with that.
that would be the only two games I would give them.
Can
That's
you
it.
imagine? Can you imagine if they like did a release of like Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr.?
That would be the most realistic case. That is the only one I could see them being able to realistically do, and attaching Mario Bros as a secondary to that.
Yeah.
I mean, they could throw Radar Scope on there too, just for the heck of it, but that's such an obscure Nintendo title that I'm not so sure they'd be able to.
But does it have any mass appeal to the massive audience? Only to the diehards that actually played it. Honestly, I've never heard of that game before, so that'll be something new to me.
It was Nintendo's one. It was one of their first stabs at an arcade game. So yeah, it's probably way too obscure to have a defined audience these days.
Well, we're like all of us. We can only dream that one day Nintendo will.
You're better off building your own, folks. Do not waste your energy waiting on this one.
That's true. That's true. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So we're now at number 13 with 75 votes, cruising.
Another bane of Nintendo, sadly.
This is one that everybody wants. This is like top 5 Dead or Alive cab right now. Every content creator, every person cruising has come up in every chat room from here to Timbuktu about cruising.
Right.
And I just don't see this ever happening because the games list would be just like this. It would be Cruising World, Cruising Exotica. Those are the two.
Right, but that wouldn't be a big deal. That'd be fine. It's just that, again, this is a Nintendo license. And this is actually still getting active development via Cruise and Blast. I believe that was an arcade release in addition to home console. And Arcade1up is kind of weird about this, too. I'm pretty sure that as long as Midway's around, there will always be a chance. But with Nintendo being as stubborn as they are, odds are that in order to make this happen, they'd have to figure out a way to get Nintendo out of the equation and get their branding out of the game. And that can be very tricky on its own, as Killer Instinct has shown us and NFL Blitz.
That could be very expensive too.
Yes.
They would have to redo the whole ROM. They would have to redo the ROM and basically destroy it. At that point, I don't really feel that it's cruising at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like what happened with Fast and Furious.
Exactly.
Though I can see why they did what they did with Fast and Furious. Because I knew that game was not going to be full. Honestly, I think it was way too soon. That should have been a 2030 or 2034 project. That should not have been done this early. The hardware couldn't handle it, and they knew it.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, why not redo the hardware? I mean, a lot of people have been complaining about concessions about the sound, the ROMs. Like, there's always been issues. Only Wave 3 was like their best wave when they got everything correct. And it seemed like the games they picked for Wave 3 seemed to fit the chipset. Once they moved on to the following year, they never readdressed the chipset. So maybe this is the time they need to start doing that because we are getting into deeper cuts of games with better graphics, better sound, better animation. You might want to start doing that.
Either that or they're going to just start taking this console approach a lot more. If they did this with like Ghost Squad, I wouldn't mind it because console Ghost Squad had a lot more features, a lot more customization, and frankly, it was just easier to get around to in terms of actually getting it to run. Though, frankly, I don't really know if they're really going to go that new or not. After all, if they try to do anything after that, yeah, they might as well just kind of do console for everything because the arcade ROMs are so big and bulky and, well, really hard to run that it's anybody's guess what would happen.
Well, I mean, Bobby, let me ask you this: like, would you prefer the console ROMs or would you prefer the arcade ROMs? I mean, even though main actually have the arcade ROMs and they actually shrinked it, would it make more sense to run the arcade ROMs in the Arcade1up with their cheap chipset?
I mean, I will say that if they are able to pull this one off, it would probably be one of their best-selling cabs ever, I think.
It would be a great trilogy.
It would be like all three of those. It would be crazy as long as they didn't do any, Fast and the Furious stuff to it.
They'd have to do something.
Yeah,
Especially,
I mean, you have to lower your
get that
expectations.
Nintendo branding out of there.
You can't get everything you want in Arcade1up. It's just impossible. So,
right.
But I mean, if they're able to, whatever they're able to do to make it run smoothly, I don't care which one they put in there. Honestly,
I do have a question for y'all. Would you prefer it sitting down or standing up?
Honestly, I'm okay with either. Sitting down takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, I think if they sold both versions, like Outrun and Star Wars, it would be. But they have to make the sit-down version fit adult, not kids.
Well, that's I mean, that would have to be like direct because you got to understand it's all about shelf space. So the stand-up would have to go out to the retailers. The pod itself would have to come directly from them.
Honestly, I wish they would just sell one cabinet with a way that you can buy something to add on the seat portion if you wanted to, instead of try to, something to hook into it or whatever. Just having two different versions just seems kind of silly, in my opinion.
Definitely redundant if you're trying to collect these things. It's very redundant collecting both versions.
Yeah, I didn't even bother with the sit-down versions because I saw how little they were, and I just didn't even want to bother with it, so I just got the stand-up versions myself. And it looks like they kind of stopped making sit-down versions as well, like with Ridge Racer.
Everybody complained because only the little kids actually enjoyed it, and the adults felt like little kids in it. It wasn't comfortable. The seating, the padding was cheap plastic. It was kind of like a pleather, and the cushion wasn't cushion. It was just like a soft thin foam that was in there. It was cheaply made, and a lot of people kept complaining about it. It was very few content creators like, oh, it's all right, you can't sit on it for very long, but it served the purpose for like 10 to 15 minutes. That kind of kills it. So, but I would like to see if Cruising ever came out, I would wait to see what would be the reviews on it, because right now I don't trust Arcade1up as far as them really being honest about their product, and especially when it comes to now the new driving cabs. Now, what they did to Fast and Furious was a tragedy in itself. It's great for what it is. If you never played it, you won't see the difference. For people that know what it is, I know that's the problem. And being that everybody's played Cruising, they could not ruin this. I think I'd be highly upset. That'll probably be the first time I take an Arcade1up back. I would send it back.
Yeah, it's funny because when I got the Fast and Furious cabs and I played them, I thought they were pretty good. I mean, they were pretty smooth. I didn't really care too much about the graphics and stuff. I mean, because I never played them before, but I ended up going to a restaurant one day and I saw the original Fast and the Furious arcade cabinet there.
Hmm.
And I played it and I got to play all the other, the tracks. And it was so smooth compared to this. And the graphics were so nice. Like, I can see why now.
Yeah, honestly, I think because they did Fast and Furious, that was definitely a stand-in. That was their way of saying that this is if you want cruising, this is as close as you're gonna get for a good few years. Sorry, it is what it is. Ugh.
Might as well just
Though
call
in that, though, whenever they do that, I'll just say there's stuff like the buy stuff mods for a reason.
I agree.
For this exact reason.
I agree. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Number 12 is Daytona with 78 votes.
Really cool idea. Not much to really include. There's Daytona, Daytona 2, Sega Rally Championship, and its sequel. And honestly, I'm not really sure what else beyond those they could do.
I think those 4 games, I think those 4 will do fine by itself. I mean, everybody would want Daytona because of the music. And as long as they can keep the music intact, I think Daytona will do fine. Everybody's going to want it.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a Terminator 2 scenario where everybody would just buy it, even if there was just one game on it.
Exactly.
If they did it right. So,
I think honestly, this one would be bearable as one game as long as it's linkable.
That's true.
That's the big question.
Yes. But I think that's the reason why they're holding out on this, because everybody wants cruising and Daytona to be linkable. Now, if you can add more, you could, like, being that Daytona has 30 cars in it, and you can add 15 cabs online, and the chipsets can handle the movement and the motion of everything, that's an automatic seller. Everybody and their mother will have one of these. You got to understand, this is promoted at Daytona, at all the raceways, and this is like in their restaurant and locations on the hallway. I think this cab will be everywhere for Daytona, for the race car series. Mm-hmm. I don't see anybody will reject this cab.
Oh yeah, it's all down to the approach. I know they'll have to remove some things, but frankly, if they can actually pull this off, it'll definitely keep them on. It'll keep them afloat for a good couple of years.
I agree, but what would you take out of it? I mean, there's not very much in there to take out.
Well, you never know. There could be certain cars. There's a very real possibility that there is some branding in this thing that they'll have to pull. Honestly, it really, really depends.
I mean, really, honestly, the cars, like, you're really driving by them, so most of the cars look the same. I think the branding on the car might be the issue.
Yes,
but I think that might be the only issue. But all the cars look exactly the same. Because remember, I mean, you can
they all have the same frame. So
yes.
I'm pretty sure if Arcade1up wanted to, they could, if they had to remove a brand for whatever reason, they could make their own.
That's true. That would make
be really creative, actually. I would love to see them take their shot at it. I mean, if they can add their branding to NFL Blitz, I'm pretty sure they could do this in Daytona, USA. And it would be actually kind of funny to think about.
And Daytona only has 3 tracks. And then they have Easy, Novelty, and Experience. That's it. So it has a lot of replay, depending on whether you have a lot of people in the house with you, how many Daytona USAs you have. I think that's where it comes down to. At the end of it, I think the branding on the car is the only issue I think they'll have an issue with. Everything else, you just leave the same.
Right.
Because you're not really taking anything away from it other than the branding on the car. And then the fact is, as long as you can basically actually have different viewpoints, I think that'll actually help. Because that was one of the issues in Ridge Racing. They didn't have a lot of viewpoints. So a lot of people said they wanted to be in the car instead of being outside the car. So
again, thanks to the buy stuff mod, that was very quickly rectified because you can put on whatever damn game you felt like. And that actually caused the cabinet to sell out, and we never saw it again. And I'm still bitter about that because it's because it seems like the writing's on the wall with the company that they're probably not going to do something like Hydro Thunder anytime soon.
They said they wouldn't even do it. I mean, John D said he didn't. They don't have. They don't. They said they have the title, but they said they don't know how to promote. They don't know how to produce the cab for the masses. That's the problem.
No. Yeah, that really is. But now that they have the linkable figured out, it can be done.
That's true. But you know everybody's going to want that sit-down version to Hydro Thunder.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from, but how are they going to emulate that vibrating seat? How are they going to do that?
Unless they bring that bullshit-ass seat from before and
They'll
put a cheapo phone vibration motor in it, or an adult toy vibrator in it.
No, they'll put the that little bead thing in the T2 guns in there and make it rattle. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you got to understand, like, they're all about the cost, keeping the cost down as much as possible. And this is where the problem with Arcade1up is. Like everyone has said, they will be willing to pay the price to keep the product at the product standard. Arcade1up is taking a cheaper way as much as possible, and they're making it seem like it's going to cost them more in the long run to make a cheaper product just to get it out there. But my thing is, by doing that, you're only hurting yourself because everybody's seeing the quality that's going behind the product, and that's what's driving your diehards and as well as your new consumers away in time, away from your product. Maybe you should make a better product, make it quality. That's why, what's that company that makes those little small arcade cabinets, the Replicates? They should get in this market. I think they would do a much better job than Arcade1up, personally.
I mean,
they may do a better job, but the price will not be cheap. You're looking at $1,000 a cab if you ask Replicate to get involved. A lot of people have been asking them to do that, but there's a reason why they don't. Their products are already getting pretty close to Arcade1up prices as it is. So, frankly, you really don't have much of an option here.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they can be a consultant, but they really can't go into the quarter scale space unless you want to be dealing with the very real possibility of a product that has a slightly better quality, but it's twice the price.
Well, look at Atkins. Atkins is bringing out their 4K and it's about to be like 12 to
Yeah, but they're multi-paid.
Yeah, I mean, the iArcade had pretty decent materials and
they were also really cool, but unfortunately, their model, the only reason why it failed is that they stuck completely to direct-to-consumer, even though the product didn't really change that much. Aside from software updates, that was really it. There wasn't a major hardware update until, 2 years into their lifespan?
Yeah, sure.
So how much do you think an Arcade1up would cost if they used like the same materials that iArcade used?
Well, it really depends on the approach.
That depends.
Because they have better speakers, better chipset, right? And it's got I'm trying to think what else is. I mean, the wood. I like that the bar top thing just kind of goes to the base. You know.
I do. I mean, they did have a better product, but they just didn't have those AAA titles. And then when they finally started getting some, they were already done by
too late. Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, if any cab is worth modding, will be that iArcade. To be honest, I think that'd be the first cab I would mod out of anything in my room. Would be the iArcade, because the iArcade, it does have better features than a Arcade1up. But being that Arcade1up has all the license, everyone has to deal with them to a certain capacity. But what I want them to understand is that when you're doing Daytona and cruising, you cannot derail from the wrong. Don't make concessions that is going to ruin the game and don't say nothing about it until the product is already sold. That's the problem that everybody's having with them. The transparency is the issue with them right now. Do I think Arcade1up is going to last another 5 years? Right now, it's hard to tell. They do have the.
We'll really see what December looks like. If what they've been alluding to is what's officially coming, they're definitely gonna keep kicking the can down the road. I mean, if they push Qbert and Robotron in the fall, then good. They finally got around to that. What next? What can they do after that? And that would make sense. That can be done with their chipsets, and that can be done under $1,000 because nobody liked the way the Pro was handled.
Sure.
Anyways, let's move on to the next game.
Spy Hunter with 91 votes at number 10.
This is another T2. The way this works, the way this game is, there's not really much you can include with it. There was a sequel of sorts, but it looked a lot different than this.
Oh, you talk about this one? Let me show you. This crap.
Yes, the radar scope type. It was the weirdest thing.
I didn't see it until today. I've
known about it since last year's community poll. It's a very strange game. I would say it's a bit of a different approach. It's a pseudo 3D, kind of like Space Harrier, except a lot more fixed. Although with dual screen type, so I guess that could have its appeal.
But I noticed that Atari and Midway do have a relationship with each other. They could add Road Blaster to this. I did think that could be a great mashup between two types. They do use the same steering wheel. They use the same the same control scheme. That's the only way I can see this cabinet actually thriving. As a one game cabinet, I wouldn't buy that at full price. Not on day one. I couldn't. You would have to have Road Blaster in it for me to consider that.
Right. Yeah, Spy Hunter is an enigma in terms of how they would even handle advertising this. They could tie it into the next James Bond project, but that is 2026 at the earliest, and we don't even know who James Bond is going to be yet. Some have said Henry Cavill, others have said Idris Elba. Honestly, I have no idea, and I literally reviewed all 25 films back in 2020 for the love of God. That was a mess.
Well, Elba said he's not doing it. He said they approached him, and he said and they couldn't come to an agreement, so he was out. He said it, and he said it. I think he was on Entertainment Tonight, and he was talking about that, and he said that they never came to a mutual understanding, so he's out. So
that makes sense. But, I mean, they could always bring in the 10th Doctor and have him be James Bond, but that would be a parody. That would definitely be a Austin Powers remake moment if they did that. But I don't know. You can't replace Mike Myers. I just can't see it. But anyways, we're getting really off track here. Spy Hunter, it's a really interesting game, but between Spy Hunter 1 and 2 and maybe Road Blasters, yeah, there's really not much you could do with this. Definitely a direct-to-consumer. No way around that.
What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, I mean, I like Spy Hunter, but I mean, it would. I don't know. I'm more into the cruising Daytona kind of games, obviously.
Yeah.
So this won't be a buy for you at all.
I mean, maybe it would be eventually, depending on if I even keep all my cabinets, But by then, I still have this fear of like my PCBs dying eventually on me and not being able to replace. But I don't know, maybe. I mean, Spy Hunters, it definitely will sell. There's a lot of people out there that like it. I mean, my Road Riot was a Spy Hunter at one point before it got converted. So, is this another one of those like yoke steering wheel type games?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's why Road Blaster would be the best complementary game to make it sell out of there. Because if you add Spy Hunter 2 to it, I don't see this cabinet moving. I don't. Only for someone that actually want a Spy Hunter cabinet. But
let's see. Wait, this is a Midway game?
Yes.
Stun Runner. That could work on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Hey guys, I
possibility.
gotta
Hey, it's a yoke controlled game too, so
It
it can be
is.
done.
It
Yes,
can.
yeah.
I gotta run, guys. It was great chatting with you.
All
All
right.
right.
Have a
Good.
good night.
Have a good night, Bobby.
All right, you too.
So I mean, start running with this, and then you put the Spy Hunter 2 with it. I mean, it might get some play, but personally, for me, I probably just wait until you go on clearance before I touch it. If it has that type of game lineup, I wait for it to go on clearance.
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine, but yeah, this is one of those titles that would languish on Arcade1up's shelves for a good long while, and eventually just be discontinued naturally. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game then.
Afterburner with 91 votes.
Finally into the top 10, folks. Almost there.
So Afterburner, and I basically it will be Afterburner 2. You couldn't
Yes.
put Afterburner Climax with it because the graphic card is too strong, being as later is as like a 2009 release.
Yeah. If you're going into the late 2000s, you're better off just using the console versions at that point.
Yeah, so I mean, me it would be a day one buy just with these two games. I know it would be. I like Afterburner. I always have. I think as long as the graphics card can handle all the movement and the GR stick is strong enough to handle that kind of beating, yes, I think this will be a good cap coming out the gate.
Right, and two games would be fine. However, Space Harrier 2, and
Top Gun.
No, not Top Gun. Cool idea though, but they wouldn't put a licensed game and a big name together like that. They just wouldn't. They've tried to do that for years, and those products usually don't even make it out of the planning stages. No, I do remember my game list about this one. Space Harrier 2.
Okay.
Hang on, hang on, let me pull that up here. It's been forever since I pulled up that old game list. Let's see here.
I think that would be kind of a cool game, to be honest. I would like Space Harrier because I actually played it a couple of times over, and I think as long as the flight stick is strong, that's the issue. Because with Tron, they proved that their quality is not great with their flight stick. So I would hope that if Glenn is ever watching this and they ever come out with an Afterburner, he would have a flight stick to go right into it, a plug and play.
Right. Here for a refresher, here was my idea list for Afterburner. Afterburner 2, Strike Fighter, G-Lock Air Battle, Zaxxon, Super Zaxxon, Space Harrier 1 and 2, and Thunderblade.
Okay. I can see the Zaxxon being in there. But
Yeah.
They did have a flight stick.
Yeah, there was a flight stick version out there.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I made Truxton on that list, because that was a Taito game. That was not Sega.
It probably sounded good at the time.
Yeah, it sounded good at the time, but honestly, that's another thing that's probably not on this list. But I would love to see a Taito shoot 'em up candy cab from Arcade.
I actually did. I actually have it on my list. It's at the bottom of the. You would have to
go look at it.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of my list. I think it's like around like 22, 21. Yeah, I actually have one. I think I have one cab that has a candy cab, and that was the Virtual Fighter. I actually advocated that to be a candy cab because I think that would be uniquely great to have something unique in the home arcade space.
Right. Honestly, I just really like the idea of Afterburner and the game list that I made up for it. And frankly, it's not. I'm pretty sure Arcade1up could get away with most of these. I am
They
pretty
could.
sure they could.
I think that the thing is like that the housing for it, like that
Yeah.
framework. I think that would be the interesting part. Like, could they make the really nice speakers, the custom work, and how
Well,
they would fit that in the box? That would be the part
okay.
I would be intrigued with.
Oh, hey, Fox, what are you doing here?
And I asked him to come through. He's working right now. He said if he had his stuff, he would have hopped on with us. But I kind of asked him at the last minute, so he'll probably catch up with us at another time.
Right, that's neat. But yeah, there's plenty of games that could go with Afterburner, and yeah, and I'm pretty sure now that what we've seen with the new Time Crisis redesign, they're really starting to mess around with multi-panel layouts. So there's a real chance that Afterburner's original design could actually be doable. But it's too early to tell until we see how Time Crisis pans out first.
I agree. But I think
Yeah.
Time Crisis, I think everybody's going to be anticipating Time Crisis is because it's been a wanted cab for a while.
It was alluded to back in 2022,
yes.
and it was delayed at the very tail end of that year. Then again, I'm starting to think that leak was played. I think somebody deliberately pushed that out to get people's reaction about
to
it.
see what everybody thought.
Yeah, I mean, why else would
glad they did.
that pop up at the end of the year?
But I was glad they did that because it gave everybody insight how the cab started out to look. I'm glad they made concessions and fixed
It started out as a McDonald's kiosk.
It did. It did.
Oh, and that's another thing I would love to see Arcade1up take a crack at is the game console kiosk. I know it sounds weird, but it would just be really neat. And considering that more and more of these game consoles are getting HDMI adapters, it's not like it can't be done.
That's true. But I mean, they're trying everything. I mean, that would be a something different. I'm not gonna lie, that would be different.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine an Atari VCS game kiosk made for home use?
Or Nintendo, or Sega, or Super NES. I've seen a lot over the years.
Oh,
the question is like, what name would they put? What name branding would they put on that kiosk? That would be the question. Would they put an Arcade1up on there? And nice big letters, bold letters?
Maybe. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and move on to the next game. Because I think we're out of stuff to talk about with this one.
All right, so this is the compilation Konami cab that everybody wants.
Well,
this is the one with Violent Storm, Mystic Warriors, Rush Attack, Monster Mauler, Life Force Vendetta, Running Gun 2, Sunset Rider, a main event, and Metamorphic Force. I think this will be a great Konami cab. And we talked about this the other day, that it has a lot of subgenres of game activity. I think this would be a great cab for Konami.
Yes, it would be a great cab, but unfortunately, most of Konami's beat-em-up history has been defined by licenses. These are not what comes to mind when you think of that, unfortunately. More than likely, what would happen is these would likely start out with a release on console. And as the popularity for these games grows, Arcade1up could revisit it later.
But Konami hasn't had a Konami cab at all. I mean, what was the last
one? Then again, they did start off with Frogger. Bad call. That was not the right game to start off with because everybody knew that major creative liberties were going to be taken.
There you go.
And it's not like they had a choice in the matter. The song was apparently copyrighted of some form, so they had to pull it out.
It was a Chinese melody, a Chinese lullaby song, so they had to take it out. But I think this lineup will be great. I think to get Konami back in the mix of everything, I think everybody will buy this cabinet, though. It's a question, would you make it a 2-player or 4-player cabinet? You do have a lot of 4-player games in it. Running Gun 2 and Sunset Rider are 4-player games now. And Vendetta.
This would be a great list for games, though. this would be right up their alley in terms of the stuff that they've got already. I don't know. Maybe this would probably have as much of a chance as happening as a Toplin arcade cabinet, if you know who they are.
I do.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't show up on this list. Been looking into them. Really promising.
All right, let's move on from this one. Number 8 is Area 51 with 92 votes.
Yes. This is a game that can be done, but it's really hard to say what you could include with it.
I found a Maximum Force as a dual cap.
Yeah.
Because it was
Idaho City. That's where I saw this cabinet last.
Yes.
I believe it was in something. It was in some place up there. I think it was like an ice cream shop or something. But they had a Maximum Force Area 51 hybrid cab, and
Yes.
I wanted to mess around with it, but I had no quarters with me at the time. It was just like, dang it. Maybe next summer I go up there. I can go give that a shot.
Well, I think I actually played Maximum Force, and it's a really good game. I'd never played Area 51. I never had the opportunity to play Area 51. But I think this will be a great mashup because it's already been done. I think this cab will do really well for the masses. This is a cab that's really high on the list. Like, really high because, everybody's been advocating for this cab. So I think Arcade1up could pull this off. And, you only got 2 games. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got 2 games, but...
And they're early 90s. They're early 90s release.
Yeah, I think it can be done as long as they are. However, no, that's a midway game. Crap. Sorry, I was thinking of another shooter that would make more sense alongside Carnival than this.
Well, Carnival, I think that would have been great with like Xenomorph. I think that would have been a great game with Xenomorph. But Carnival, it has a different type of control scheme. It's weird how that cabinet is made, though. I know a lot of people have been asking for that one, but they never added on like extra games to that cab, so I wouldn't even know what to add with Carnival. I know I'm kind of interested to find out where it's at so I can play it, but I haven't came across one yet. But we came back to Area 51 and Magnum Force. I think this will be a great cab. I think it will be a $700 cab, and I think it should be an XL. You definitely want a bigger screen, as much big as possible. Since the Pro is no longer going to be an operational, I think XL will be great for this.
Absolutely.
They
really do need to start moving away from 17-inch for these light gun cabinets. There's no reason. With the price they're asking for these things, we should be long past this screen size by now.
I agree. I definitely agree. Honestly, I think a lot of shooting cabs should have 26-inch screens. I think if you're going to do in that XL form factor, just put it like a 21-inch or a 21-inch or a 20-inch screen in it for the shooters, because you do need the screen space for it. And there's a lot of things going on the screen that a 17-inch screen cannot catch. But I think a 21-inch would be great for a shooting cab coming out the gate. I think everybody will definitely enjoy that cab. All right.
Let's move on to the next one then.
Got anything more for this cab?
Honestly, it really just comes down to the approach. It really does. If they got the screen size right, I think I'd try and look into this one.
All right, well, Robotron is at number 7 with 100 votes. Everybody wants Robotron. This is the cab that everybody wants to see. I know.
Apparently,
Michael B wants this cab.
Oh yeah. Well, from what I've been able to gather, there's a real chance that this one is coming this fall. Okay. It appears that in their teaser for Fast and Furious, the thumbnail that they used showed off Robotron, Hubert, Missile Command, and Street Fighter Dynamo. So I don't know. We'll see for sure. in October, November, and December if this is actually going to pan out. If it does, then I guess it's their Hail Mary, considering that this is something that everybody has been wanting to see for so long. And the games list is pretty self-explanatory. Robotron, Smash TV, Total Carnage. What was the last one?
That was it. That was Total Carnage and Smash TV. It was like the ones I was getting to. That was the ones that I was noticing, because when I looked up their control schemes for both cabs, you have to have 2 joysticks. So unless they add in like some games that I've never seen, but these are the games that are going to pull everybody in.
What about
for me, Smash TV is what I grew up on. I have never played Robotron, but Smash TV I have, and I have played Total Carnage. So I will definitely get this cab if they come out with that games list. Yes, that's a win.
Frankly, if they would be willing to have a little bit of mixing with Atari, you know what game would also be a really nice inclusion on this cabinet?
I'm listening.
Black Widow. That is also a twin stick, and it's a really fun twin stick at that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a deep cut to bring that
That
up.
is a deep cut. That would be interesting. But
I just don't see Midway wanting to share the revenue, or I guess WB, because they're the ones who own Robotron. Make no mistake.
Well, hopefully we'll see these 3. I mean, that's what everybody's hoping. These three games on that cab with the Robotron skin. I would have liked to see a Smash TV variant, because that's the one I would buy. I don't think they would do a Total Carnage skin, but I would love to see a Smash TV skin for this. Right. If you could give me the option to get a Smash TV, I would get the Smash TV.
Right. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. This is overall a fairly balanced game list, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're moving on to the next one. For number 6 is
Track and Field. Huh? Oh, this is a fairly easy one to now, if you're sticking solely to sports, this is actually pretty self-explanatory. It's Track and Field, Hyper Sports, Blades of Steel, and what else? Okay, hang on.
But you got to remember, Nintendo still owns the rights for Track and Field.
Yes, that.
So, because when I looked it up, it was remember they had a variant for this. Arcade1 had one, but Nintendo still owns the rights for it. Even though Konami is the one that made the game, Nintendo owns the rights, and that's the problem. They own the rights for Hyper Sports as well. So, I don't think this cab will ever see the light of day, ever.
At least not in any meaningful form.
Yeah, I don't see it ever happening. And the thing is, the buttons would have to be great on the cab, in which that is not a guarantee. That is never a guarantee with Arcade1up. So,
but still, though, the game list. We knew that Arcade1up had Track and Field in development. It was in development back in 2021 alongside Tron and Simpsons. But more than likely, what happened is that it just couldn't find a retail presence. Even though if this would have been sent to HSN and QVC, I'm damn sure it would have sold.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they would have. I mean, every content from 19K to Michael B to P-Dubs to Console Kids, they would have all been running the same video, like about QVC to get Track and Field, the Track and Field. Everybody would have been there on that site, would have bought it. It would have sold out in minutes.
Oh, absolutely. And if they would have put a trackball in the control panel for Track and Field, I'm pretty sure they could have gotten Blades of Steel, no sweat. And that's another, but that's also another deep cut. I'm not really sure who all would be aware of that one.
Well, I've seen Blades of Steel, but I haven't seen it on anything, so I think that'll be like a mystery game out there. But
you have to have the trackball to run it correctly. Otherwise, it's basically like pointless.
The Simpson cab.
Yeah. You have to have the trackball to make it work. Though going off on a side tangent for a moment, if Arcade1up were to attempt the grid and they would be willing and Midway was willing to collaborate with Disney, the grid could also have Space Paranoids because they had the same control scheme. They were both trackball flight stick controls. So that's so there has to be some level of collaboration in order for some of these more weird ideas to pan out. Yeah.
But as long as Nintendo holds the keys to these games, it'll never happen.
Yeah, stubborn jerks.
Right?
All right, next title.
Qbert, number 5 at 112 votes.
Yes. This is the game with two approaches. This was the one title that has two approaches to seeing release. On one hand, you get the 3 Qbert titles, and that's it. On the other hand, you get a Gottlieb Deluxe cabinet that goes completely off the rails of the control panel, basically featuring at least one of everything. And frankly, that version wouldn't sell. There's no way in heck. You might as well make it a generic Gottlieb cabinet at that point. Kind of like some releases and their weird side panels.
I think the fact that if you could just do the 3, the Qbert cubes, and I think
that's harder, more challenging, which I don't consider a separate game, by the way. I think that should be handled like it could have been handled with Space Invaders and just be a separate mode, not a whole game.
Because I was watching the video the last couple of days, and I was like, I have never seen Cubic Cubes ever. So if they do happen to bring the cabinet out, I would definitely be intrigued to buy it. I do like the fact that it's going to be all yellow, so it's going to be different from everything else. It's going to be that big bird yellow, and it's going to have games on there that has a puzzle format, which they haven't had in for never. Because I would assume they would at least got Tetris, but nobody wants Tetris at all. So I think this is as far as puzzle games go, I think this is the only one we're probably going to get from Arcade1up.
Probably. And
they'll never get columns. They'll never get columns, and they'll never do Tetris.
Columns. It's not. Columns isn't impossible. That's a Sega IP, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a Sega IP. That can be done.
But what other games could you add with that? There's nothing else to add with that game.
Well, there's a few Columns games, mostly console based, but yeah.
Kind of just a waste of time, to be honest. I would add that in one like a Sega Legacy, because that might be a great complementary game. But as a marquee game, no, I couldn't see it.
Okay. Well, this is another one that was alluded to, so it's not that it can't be done. Yes, Star Wars Trilogy.
And
realistically, really cool idea, but
there's no games to go with it.
Well, I mean, it could try and do Battle Pod, but it would be very unorthodox.
But the Star Wars license is owned by Disney.
Yeah, I know.
They're not gonna let anybody touch that license.
Battle Pod is part of Disney, I think. Well, most of the games folded under Disney way back in the early 2010s after it was bought out. I don't know. All I know for sure is that regardless of what they do, Star Wars Trilogy is probably going to be a special type of cabinet, probably limited run, and probably just one game. But at least it would make sense, though, frankly, I don't think anybody would accept this not being an XL. It would be DOA if it wasn't. Right?
No, they could add Battle Pod, you're right. They could. I can see that being an add-on. Because it does use the flight stick with it, so it would make sense to add it. Because now you have 2 Sega games. And the fact is, even if it is one, there will be a lot of people that would buy this.
Battle Pod is basically just an updated Star Wars Trilogy arcade, if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, at $700 or $800, there'll be a lot of Star Wars fans buying this cab. The price is endless for this cab. This cab will make Arcade1up tons of money in seconds. Because the franchise been around since late 70s. You're talking about almost close to 50 years.
Yeah.
People don't buy it. I don't see anybody being distracted from this IP. Everybody's gonna go and get it. It's just something that everybody wants. I just, my thing is the flight stick would be my concern, how strong and how good what the quality is. That's it. Because I know Disney will not allow Arcade1up to mess with the ROM of this game. Will not let them
absolutely
mess
not.
So
honestly, I'm pretty sure they had Arcade1up by the hair when they were working on Tron.
So I know this game will be prestige, but the thing is that flight stick is my concern with this game. That's it. It'd be a great addition. It'll be a collector's item for everybody that has it. So I think this when people start
this
moving,
is the cabinet that they should partner with Limited Run Games to develop.
Well, we'll wait and see because
it's going to be expensive enough.
Yeah, but it's not like nobody's willing to pay for it. Even if this
people will definitely pay for this. I remember this being in my local Walmart way back in the day. It would look like so much fun, but I couldn't. But I was tiny at the time, and I couldn't even reach the controls, much less be able to play it.
So but the thing is, even if you make this an XL cap, it'll be $1,000. People will still go and buy it.
Oh yeah, and if they included Battle Pod, even more so.
Yes.
So Battle Pod would have to be changed up a little bit because that original is more immersive. And so yeah, they would definitely need to make some major adjustments to the game in order for it to have a chance in any form of getting released on this cabinet.
But if not, it could sell Star Wars Trilogy by itself. And they'll still make money.
Certainly has the audience.
A massive audience. All right, next slide.
Nothing can go with this game.
Nothing? Nice.
At least nothing that would require major modifications.
That's true.
Yes, WrestleFest.
Number 3, 189 votes. WW Wrestle Wars. WrestleFest. My thing is Vince McMahon and the WWF branding. And the wrestlers. You would have to get all the wrestlers on play. You would have to change it to WWE. And
it would basically be like a WrestleFest Legends.
Yes.
Because, they would have to majorly modify the ROM. There's no way around it. I'm honestly okay with that in this situation, just because, what could they realistically do?
They would have to take Demolition out, because remember, they still have that lawsuit that's still ongoing.
Jeez.
It's just getting all the other wrestlers to comply to be involved in it. So that would be the ultimate issue. I heard they was gonna bring in the British Bulldogs or the Legion of Doom. So they have people they have other wrestlers they could put in the game. So, but the question is I know Hulk Hogan will still be in it. Ultimate Warrior, not so much. I'm just wondering who they would replace everybody with, since they're not gonna use the original 10 wrestlers. So that'll be the
good question. And apparently this one is in development in some capacity.
It is.
It's just they're probably deciding on who is going to replace the existing roster.
And I put WrestleMania as the game to be added onto it.
Right. I could see this one happening. But again, there will need to be modifications to the roster.
And the branding.
Yes.
And how much Vince McMahon is going to want for profit share. So it comes down to those 3 things. But this cab could definitely happen. I definitely would want it to happen. As a sports cab, as a WWF fan that grew up with this, yes, I would love to see this cabinet happen. I would love to actually have one of this in my house.
Absolutely. But with so many creative liberties, really, are we sure this is even going to be the same product? How are we sure we're not going to be in a Theseus ship situation where this is where the Arcade 1-Up WrestleFest Legends is truly the same thing as actual WrestleFest, or if they're two completely different entities?
That will be a concern too. But I think a lot of people won't care. I think everybody just be happy to have a WWE cabinet, not a WWF. So we just have to wait and see. We'll see where it goes. Unfortunately, this is the time we're in right now. Everybody's about, money and control. So it sucks. So the next one at number 2, House of the Dead with 177 votes.
Yes. This one fairly easy to figure out. It'd probably at the bare minimum be House of the Dead and Virtual Cop.
Okay.
At the bare minimum.
I was definitely thinking that. I did think that.
At the bare minimum, House of the Dead and Virtual Cop, and at the maximum, House of the Dead 1 and 2, Virtual Cop Run 1 and 2, and maybe Ghost Squad if they use the Wii version.
I did look up Ghost Squad. That graphics is a little bit more intense to be put on this.
Right. I know, it's just something I think. It's just something I thought about.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because Ghost Squad, because I was looking at that and I was looking at
Gunblade, New York and LA machine guns. Those would be perfect on this cabinet. Absolutely.
Yes.
I completely lapsed that. I am so sorry.
No, that's good because we're at least on the same page. I mean, this is a cab I think everybody wants. You cannot screw this cab up. You cannot screw this one.
Mess this up and you might as well call it quits.
Yes. You will never hear the end. This whole community will riot after this.
Yeah. I can't really think of any major adjustments they need to make to these games.
It's no adjustments. I think it's just the fact is, can the PCB handle the game? The guns are at good quality, and just how the cabinet's going to look like, or what are you going to mimic after the House of the Dead 2 or House of the Dead 1? That's all we want to know. As long as it don't look like any other cab that we actually have, I'm perfectly fine with it. Don't mimic it after the Big Buck Hunter. Or after Time Crisis.
Honestly, there's really an approach that I wouldn't mind them trying with House of the Dead to cut the price, but basically put all their time into the PCB so they don't have to fight with the screen. It sounds silly, but make House of the Dead a projectorcade. And without the projector, just make it a pedestalcade. So you can use your TV as the screen. That just like that, the screen issue completely solved.
Okay, but I mean, would you want this in the XL screen?
Well, that would be the way you can get it. Well, that would be a way to get full size guns, is through that type of approach. Honestly, it sounds crazy to think about, but considering that House of the Dead has had a wild variety of design choices, and you've already shown a couple off, it's largely a case of do they want to go with the screens they have, or do they want people to be able to use whatever size of screen they want? Well, if you have that second approach, you lose the marquee. But you could probably put it on the pedestal, technically.
Well, remember, they did that with Big Buck Hunter. You see, and they did the 40-inch mods to that cab.
Oh, so yes.
I see that happening. I would definitely do that mod. For this type of game, I would definitely do that mod.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense to keep that small crappy screen in there. Even though it's a BOE, it's still a small screen. I would need twice the screen to make this game worthwhile.
Yeah, this one would definitely need to be at least 26 inches or bigger.
We're both agreeing on that.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad everybody stuck with us to the very end.
Got a couple more.
We got one more cab left. I don't think I think everybody know what it is, and it's no surprise. It is the legendary Donkey Kong with 226 votes. This
Yes,
cab blew everybody else out the water. I
but
don't
once
think we're
again,
ever going to see
Nintendo.
this cab
So,
ever. This is a cab that you could wish it killed Nintendo. We'll never get it.
honestly, it would be easier to wait for this to fall into the public domain before we ever see an Arcade 1-Up version of it.
I think we just better off building the cab ourselves. That's it. Just get a
Yeah.
Pandora's box or a Raspberry Pi and just build the cabinet ourselves. Just make a Play Choice 10 and call it a day. I mean, I've seen people do it. I mean, the game lineup would be really easy. Just put Donkey Kong Jr. on it. Super Mario Brothers. You could do the old Nintendo port, and you could probably add Mario Bros. I think that'd be a perfectly fine cabinet.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's plenty of approaches that this cabinet could get if Arcade 1-Up were to ever actually do it. But yeah, Nintendo is in such a weird position with their arcade stuff that we'll probably never see this. So,
Well, unless Nintendo goes broke or go bankrupt, they would actually start lending out their IPs because it'll be a quick cash grab for them.
oh yeah.
But as long as they making money off the other stuff, and which they are, and they making billions, they don't care. They will hold on to these IPs until the very end. And I don't understand why they're holding on to this one because this game don't really get ported out anywhere. So I don't even understand. Might as well just let it be on an Arcade 1-Up. Make a couple 100,000 off this. But this is where we're at.
Yeah. It makes sense for this to be at the number one, but well, it's the ultimate delusion for the home arcade market is we're just never going to see it. At least not in any meaningful way. At most, this would probably be an NSO release. At most. Maybe, if we're lucky, the closest thing we'll get to ever seeing this is maybe a mini cabinet. Kind of like, you remember the Game & Watches, right? That they did with Zelda and Mario? That's what I think this is going to be. That is what I'm thinking is going to happen here. Is they'll do a type of mini Game & Watch cabinet for Donkey Kong at some point in the future. Maybe for an anniversary or something.
I mean that could happen, but Nintendo is very picky about when they drop their IPs. And especially when they did their minis, they only did the Nintendo, the NES, and the SNES version. And everybody thought they was going to bring out the 64, and they never did it. So you never know what Nintendo got cooked up in their lab and what they're trying to figure out and what they're going to drop to the public. So I do agree with you. This cab would never come in fruition. I mean, you're better off just building it yourself or just buying an actual real Super Donkey Kong cabinet because I just don't see it in this recorded scale at no point. But I'm glad a lot of people voted for it. But it seemed to be on everybody's top.
Seems to be on a lot of radars. It really is. And now that Rare is officially being pulled from Arcade 1-Up, maybe they are going to have to start really starting to push. They're really probably going to start pushing it to get this done. I'm not used to doing this stuff without a script. I'm sorry.
Final thoughts. Got any Constorm?
Well, as far as I can tell, this lines up a lot with the community poll that I took last year. A lot of the games definitely are reminiscent of that. And while Nintendo is one of those cases where is just the most stubborn case on the planet for arcades, there's still a lot that Arcade 1-Up can tackle before they ultimately go under in the 2030s. Because let's be real here, they're not going to last past that point. At least unless they start listening to their fans. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I mean, I feel like I think Nintendo could be. I believe Nintendo could be their holy grail for Arcade 1-Up to last over 10 years, especially with some of their major titles. Yes, and especially a lot of the titles is on this criteria list. I think they can last 10 years, but without them and with the concessions they made, and the quality control that has been hurting them for the last couple years, I don't really see this. I don't see Arcade1up lasting until year 10. I might see them last until year 8, and then they might have the same issues that IR Arcade might have because they haven't been listening to their fans. And I believe that if you do have all these licenses, why we haven't seen better games lists for your legacies, why we haven't seen a title legacy, a Konami legacy, why we haven't seen like the newer game ports that like people are asking for, like Shredder's Revenge for the new Turtles cab that should be coming out in the XL form factor. Because if I see another 2 games on the XL for Turtles,
yeah, I agree. That was bull. When they pulled that with Turtles in Time, that was bull. They should not have released that.
I just thought
that was the case where the fake IGN leak should have been real.
Yes, because I feel like this is Arcade1up needs to step their game up. I understand that you're trying to pull in new consumers in your market, and you have a right to do deluxes for those cabins, but you do have to ensure your actual diehards that's been in your community for years new titles to go forward with, and they should have basically combined both. You basically drop 4 old ones, give me 2 new ones. At least keep it constant where, okay, we look like you're going in the right direction. You brought a new form factor out, give me 2 new licenses. But right now,
and if you're going to keep re-releasing these old cabinets like NBA Jam, then why don't you go out of your way to add a new title once in a while? For example, in the Shaq edition, people thought they were going to be able to go with NBA on NBC, but there was an entire hang time that they missed.
Yes.
I just discovered it. It's called NBA Maximum Hang Time.
Maximum Hang Time.
Maximum Hentai? Is that what you just said?
Maximum Hang Time. It is.
Okay, that sounds better.
Yes. I would actually include, because with the Open Ice, I would have had that added on to that cat. Since
you still have to work at the NHL, though, and they're all over the place.
Yeah, but I think that cat would have been interesting. But with the NBA Jam, Shaq Edition, it would have been great for them to add the NBC or the maximum hang time to it, add some depth to the cabinet. That way the cabinet can sell. That way it makes it look like, well, I got the regular OG cap, but they did add another one to the Shaq Edition. Let me sell that one or just add that one to my collection. That way you're constantly making more money. But it just don't make no sense now you throw a deluxe out with the same games list. And meanwhile, you still have the Shaq Edition out there. It just, I don't understand the direction of Arcade1up right now. And I'm hoping that
it's an enigma. But at least their deluxe Bust Buy exclusivity is finally over. Took them long enough.
Yeah. But we will see this winter if things are going to change or stay the same.
Yeah.
Because
we know that their next we know at least 3 potential announcements for the fall. Time Crisis, Street Fighter Deluxe, and Missile Command Deluxe. Those 3 we know are probably happening.
Well, with the Street Fighter Deluxe, are they going back to the regular Champion Edition for that one?
Honestly, it's a good question. I would be okay with them doing Final Fight and maybe doing Street Fighter as the XL.
Yes. I mean, everybody's been asking for Final Fight. But I would add more games to that package, though. I would add more games to it.
Yeah, but let's be realistic here. If they're going to bring back Final Fight, and this year I think we've established now that they aren't doing any new games, at least for these pre-existing deluxe models. So I think this actually is a hard question. Street Fighter had 2 game lists last year, which these game lists are absolutely going to be merged. So what Street Fighter game is getting cut?
I think that's a good question. That is a good question. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Street Fighter 3 or Hyper Edition or no, not Hyper. What's that?
Well, they could always bring in hacks like Rainbow Edition, but that's probably never going to happen.
I mean, that would be different. I would, you know what? Honestly, if they did that in the deluxe, I would buy it. I would buy that because the Rainbow Edition is a very rare hat. And even Nintendo went back and made Hyper Edition because of it. So that would be an interesting twist to the lineup. I would buy that cab, even though I have 5 Street Fighter cabs in here. I do. So I would buy that just for the Rainbow Edition to be included because you don't rarely see it. That would be interesting. But I would like to see Alpha, though. Alpha or Street Fighter 3. Either one or the other. I think we need to get rid of
I'm pretty sure
Street
they can do Alpha. If they can do MVC2, they can pull it off. But I think they're just holding off on it because of the online prospect. That's the only reason they haven't done Alpha 3 yet. At least that's the only reason I can think of, anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, John D loves Street Fighter. He likes Street Fighter. He loves Street Fighter. I wouldn't think he would have pushed this by now. I mean,
well, apparently Street Fighter doesn't sell as well as Mortal Kombat.
Well, he keeps messing up Mortal Kombat, and that's why Zohar be so pissed off because MK30 was a complete abomination.
Well, I mean, if they hadn't screwed up the screen, it would have done all right. I didn't mind that Carlos Pesnea wasn't on the art. That wasn't a big deal to me because I'm not a super fan.
I mean, you can always go third party and just get it, get the
exactly.
But the thing is like I feel like let's get MK4 out there and now be the end of it. Let's be done. Get the whole series out there and be moved on from it. And let's get to Soul Calibur. Let's get to all these other 3D games that everybody typed in. Let's get to those games because right now they're holding everything up.
They are. They're being stubborn.
Because there are a lot of great fighting games out there that haven't even touched on, but we're still in Mortal Kombat Street Fighter era. And it's going on 5 years.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to wear thin. Now, make no mistake, if they were to finalize Mortal Kombat with a XL edition, that would be it. That's their logical stopping point. Though the hard question to say is, will they do an XL edition of all 3 titles, or will
they probably will? They probably will.
Probably.
Juice the license out there? Yes. Why not?
Honestly, if they're going to go out of their way to do an XL edition Mortal Kombat, they need to offer all 3 skins at once. They've done it before. They just did this back in January with the deluxe cabinets for Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man.
They did.
And Class of 81.
They did, but Pac-Man pays better than Mortal Kombat. Everybody likes Pac-Man. That's why I keep selling it.
Yeah, unfortunately. It really is a shame that they're stuck. Like they're just stubborn right now. I know there's probably going to be new IP at the end of the year, but odds are it's probably going to be experimental IP, not the stuff that we want to see, just the stuff that's the stuff that they had on hand.
I would love to have a conversation with John D or Mike Baccarat and ask some real questions, and not questions that is going to embarrass them, but questions that everybody wants to ask. I really have some deep questions because me as a consumer, I have 46 Arcade1up's. I think I have a right to question them at this point. I really do.
Well, you're certainly an investor.
Yes,
if you're over 30 cabs in, you're an investor at that point.
I feel that I have a right to ask some questions. Like, why we haven't seen these cabs? And I don't want these bullshit-ass answers. I need you to be straightforward. Either you got the license, you know, and what is the concession you're being held back from? That's it. Like, if you're telling me that it can't go, like Walmart is not going to pick it up, then sell it through your site. We will support you. Do a signing sheet. Like, have everybody put $50 up, basically sign, have 300-400 names. That's it. If that's who's going to get these cabinets out there, I'm willing to do that. But I am so sick and tired of these rehashes every year of the same game lineup with different skins on it. I come on. I really want to move on. I want new stuff.
They do need to move on. They have been stuck on the 2018 slate for way too long. They should have been done with it back in 2020. They should have been on to the next set at that point, once the new decade started. Though I am really happy, though, that they at least managed to get Tron done. That was really cool to actually see that come to pass, because I wasn't sure. I thought some parts of the catalog leaks did look a little sketchy.
You know what, I bought Tron, but my initial was not to buy it. I'm not really into that era of gaming. I really didn't have
Neither am I, but Tron was literally one of the first arcade games for me, so
because honestly I wasn't in nostalgia for it. But when I saw how it looked in everybody's game room, the FOMO did kick in, and I do have it. I put Glenn's flight stick with it, his GR stick with it, and it's great. But it's not a cab that I play often, just like Dragon Slayer I have in the house as well. So those cabs is sitting there, kind of collecting dust, and I don't really play those games. I see the nostalgia with everybody, but I think some games impact certain people a certain way, just like Cubert and Robotron, Moon Patrol, games like that. I believe everybody has a certain era. Like, for me, I'm a Sega kid in the arcade. I love Sega games. I have Outrun, Golden Axe, Space Harrier, all those games. Sega games make more sense to me. But I do want people to get the games they want. However, we do need to move away from the games we already got. We already have four years of the same game. We do need to move on and get a whole new catalog of stuff. Get this community buzzing again, because everybody's is not invested anymore. A lot of people are walking away from it, or they're on the cuff of it.
Honestly, if it weren't for the fact that these things are moddable, I probably would have ducked out after Tron.
Oh shit! Oh wow!
But because you can modify these cabinets, and with the upcoming prototyping I'll be doing with Sports Station, that's the only defining thing of Arcade1up right now. I mean, have you seen what the fans did to Ridge Racer? If it weren't for that buy stuff mod, Ridge Racer would have been
still
DOA.
Be selling. It would still be on sale. It would still be full price.
Well, if you can find it.
Well, I mean, without without that third party hack, that cab would still be out there, just like everything else. We still see Golden Tees, a Wave 2
2019 cab. Golden Tees at that.
A Wave 2 cab still in the wild. Those cabs should have been gone by now.
Yes.
Because I bought my Golden Tee for $99. I wasn't going to pay that $499 for it. When it got down to $99, that's when I went and bought it. It is a great cab, and it still works to this day. But I don't believe that some cabs is worth the price of admission. They need to clear those inventories out, gut them out, and restart something else. Like, where's the bowling cab? Like, the only bowling cab we got was like
World Class Bowling,
XL, and Senses. Why we haven't got what's that?
Silver Strike.
Just Silver Strike. I would have loved to see that.
Well, they were alluding to it back in 2019, but unfortunately, it seems like they're just kind of off. They're kind of off the mark with it. Like, they revealed it stupid early. That seems like a 2028 cabinet, not a 2019 one.
I agree. I just don't understand it. Like, everybody saying like, okay, this is gonna be a rehash year. Yeah, but where's the direction in the year? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, where are you trying to go with all this? Like, I understand that you're trying to bring in a new audience, but the audience is already here. I mean, unless you're bringing in younger kids, I don't really see younger kids in the arcade like that, unless they're with their parents. I just don't see it. But that's just me. But I appreciate you coming out, Constorm, and joining me on my podcast today. I want to thank you and Bobby's Arcade for showing me love. 19K Fox, thank you for dropping in. Whoever is the one person that's watching, I appreciate you. You never said anything in the chat room, but I appreciate everybody. I got 5 new subs today, so I appreciate that. And Constorm, I'm gonna let you say your piece before we check out.
All right. Well, yes, thank you for allowing me to come on, Gotham. I appreciate it. I'm still trying to get used to this whole podcast prospect. Honestly, because the news project is not remotely like this, I'm sure eventually I'll adapt some prospect of this into the show, but that's not going to be right. That's not going to be this year. We're still trying to establish the branding of the show at the moment.
Yes. Well, I want everybody to go over there. If anybody see this on a rerun, please go over there, like and subscribe. Constorm's content. He has some great stuff. I've been following him since he appeared. I love his content. He don't show his face. I love his voice. His voice is awesome, and I think he has great charisma. But I think one day he'll come out of his shell and put his face on the masses. That way, the face will be.
Well, it's not that I'm being bashful. I don't have a webcam.
Well,
at least not right now. I don't have a webcam. That's why I'm in this position.
Well, I think the illusion. That was the reason why I watched your content, because the illusion of you, the voice is awesome. I love the voice, and I love the way you direct your content and the way you word everything. I love that. Yeah. That's the reason what kept me glued to your channel. So that's why I always put it on. Every time
I always try to have a plan. Honestly, it's all over. I don't like having my content go all over the place, especially right now where Arcade1up may not even be around next year.
Oh, there's always other stuff for us to do.
Well, yeah, that's why the news project is even existing in the first place. And like back in like last year when there was the Summer of Animation project, or the year before with the March of Animation, we're trying to branch out.
Yeah, because I mean, eventually I'm gonna have to find new content if Arcade1up continues to go down their little rabbit hole the way they're doing. I mean, I have a couple ideas in mind. It might be totally different from what I'm doing, but I mean, as much as I enjoy this hobby, I didn't really see it like dying as quickly as it did. And now that I'm watching everybody kind of walking away from this, and this all started from not Glenn, not Retro Ralph, but I forgot. I used to watch it. He was the reason why I started watching this content.
Toycade?
Huh?
Toycade?
Not
Toykade.
No, he had because
he was the whole reason we knew about the FCC thing in the first place.
He used to be with Tech Buzz. He was with Tech Buzz first, and then he basically walked away from all of it at some point. He was the reason why I hopped into space, because when I bought my first Arcade1up, was my very first Street Fighter. I bought Street Fighter, Centipede, and Galaxian all in the same night. He was the reason why I started getting into this stuff, and I was glued to it ever since. When he walked away, and then Retro Ralph, and then Glenn Palomano, and all the other and then it started getting toxic. You can kind of see the writing on the wall that this is not going to last very long. There's a lot of division, a lot of separation, a lot of jealousy in this field.
This community is dying off as a fad.
It is.
And that's pretty obvious right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am happy to see that they are branching into the Casino-cade kind of thing, because make no mistake, there is an audience there. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, I'm sure they've all dealt with some kind of gambling arcade-type content in the past. Whether they want to admit it or not, even if they just watched a quick round of poker on TV, that counts.
I mean, I don't see the fascination in the Casino-cade. I really don't. I think I'm a watch everybody enjoy that product.
I'm only gonna get it if it shows up on the home shop networks.
I might buy it for someone, but I'm not going to keep it for myself. I'll probably buy it for like a Christmas gift, but I don't see myself having it in my home personally. I don't see any real nostalgia or any kind of resistance or FOMO that'll kick in for me to actually get that cat. So I'd rather just wait and see what's going to happen. And that's it. I think I said what I had to say. Constorm, it was a pleasure. I'll see you in 2.5 months. I'll probably have another subject matter, and I'll probably run it across you. Probably will have more people in the room, and we can have some open debate and some conversation. But it's a pleasure, and thank you for coming out and supporting me.
No problem, dude. Thanks for inviting me on. Now, if you excuse me, I have a game time episode to finish. I believe I have roughly, I want to say 4 headlines left, and a demo showcase. But yeah, I kind of waited till the last minute because of Comic-Con. Thanks a lot.
But
See you around, bud.
But I'll be checking out your content, and I'll let you know when I get back home, man.
Alrighty, have a good one.
You too. So for everybody else, I appreciate everybody coming out and checking me out. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. My channel is growing. I know. I don't know. The next time I'm probably gonna do content, it'll probably be in October. I probably have a subject in mind. I gotta put it together. It'll probably take me a day to put it together, and then I'm gonna invite some more people to hop on with me, because I think I do better with a bunch of people around me than me doing it by myself. And it's not like I don't know the content, but I'd rather have different voices in the room because we all learning from each other, and it brings unity in this space. It's unfortunate that this is dying as I'm getting into it, but I'm not gonna leave it just yet. I probably stick around to the very end, to the last Arcade1up's is gone. But I hope it has a revival, and it definitely grows back into something, and we can have a second breath, a second wave of this. So it is 7:46. It's time for me to go and get something to eat. I gotta pack my bag for tomorrow. I gotta hit the road at 5 in the morning. No, I actually gotta wait around for a couple packages, so I probably won't be leaving until the noon time. And when all my packages get here, I'm gone. So everybody be good, be easy, enjoy the rest of your summer. For all the kids that's going back to school in the South, please act right. For all the kids that's in the north states, Northeast, I know y'all going school shopping. Stay out of jail, stay out of trouble. Everybody, take care of your families, take care of yourself. Please go to the gym. Tell your loved ones I love you. If you're mad and upset, get over it. Life is too short. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody else. But I want everybody to know I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Peace.